Welcome back! My name is Baller Scuba. This is Video Games Over Time. We are still in 1984. Today, we're going to talk about boxing. The story of boxing is long and complicated. After all, humans have been punching each other most likely since the beginning of the existence of humans. As a sport, it is impossible to trace to its origins, since it likely predates history. It spreads across cultures, each with its own history and set of rules. For our purposes today, we are going to focus on what is known as Western boxing. We are also only going to focus on the more modern history of the sport. That means starting in 1867. In 1867, John Chambers, a Welsh sportsman, drafted the Marquess of Queensberry rules. These rules were published under the patronage of the Marquess of Queensberry, John Douglas, which is where the rules got their name. These rules were published for amateur championships being held in London that year. Although rules for boxing had been written previously, the Queensberry rules are often seen as the start of the modern sport of boxing. These rules would include concepts such as weight classes, rounds, a referee, and large gloves. These gloves not only protect the boxer's hands, but also provide protection and force more strategy. Despite these new rules, boxing was still outlawed in England and most of the United States. Boxing matches were often held in underground gambling venues and were broken up by police. Boxing would struggle to be seen as a legitimate sport throughout the 19th and much of the 20th century. In 1891, a private club in London, the National Sporting Club, began advertising professional boxing matches with a set of modified Queensberry rules that included a scoring system. The sport gained some legitimacy when it was included in the Summer Olympics starting in 1904. Outside of the 1912 Summer Olympics, men's boxing would be featured in every Summer Olympic Games. In 1909, the first title belts were presented at the National Sporting Club. These title belts, awarded to winners at different weight classes, quickly became a selling point for advertisers and audiences. Early world champions were determined by newspapers and popular opinion, which tended to favor American and British boxers. World champions achieved celebrity status, becoming household names and arguably the most popular athletes of the era. As time continued on, several different organizations would sanction boxing matches and often have their own champions. These would include the National Boxing Association, founded in 1921, which would become the World Boxing Association, or WBA, in 1962, the Ring magazine, which started recognizing world champions in 1922, the World Boxing Council, or WBC, founded in 1963, and the International Boxing Federation, or IBF, founded in 1983. The history of boxing is often tied to individual champions, so it's worthwhile to take a look at some of the biggest names in the sport. Some of the early champions would include Jim Jeffries and Jack Johnson, but perhaps the most famous of them all would be Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey held the World Heavyweight Championship from 1919 through 1926. He was featured in the first boxing match to be broadcast on the radio. The next truly big name in boxing would be Joe Louis, who held the World Heavyweight Championship from 1937 through 1949. Joe Louis would be so popular that the United States military would use his celebrity to try to get Americans to join the war against Germany, featuring the athlete in posters and film. Boxing began to be featured on television in the 40s, although these were non-title matches. Joe Louis retired from boxing in 1949, still holding the championship. While the 50s saw boxing truly become a worldwide sport, Boxing history is often focused on the 1960s and 70s, particularly surrounding the exploits of one boxer. In the Summer Olympics of 1960, American Cassius Clay won the gold medal in the light heavyweight division. In 1964, Cassius Clay won the heavyweight championship at just 22 years old. Also in 1964, Clay formally changed his name to Muhammad Ali, noting his Muslim faith and unwillingness to keep what he called his slave name. Muhammad Ali was drafted into the Vietnam War in 1966, but refused to go, citing his religious and ethical oppositions to the war. As a result, Ali was stripped of his titles and he was sentenced to jail time. However, Ali avoided jail by appealing this decision until it was overturned in 1971. Ali had used his celebrity to make a political point, becoming arguably a larger figure than the entire sport as a result. Muhammad Ali is often considered the greatest boxer of all time. His matches are often considered among the greatest title fights of all time. His brash and provocative personality and his quick wit made Muhammad Ali not only a great boxer, but also an award-nominated spoken word poet. Muhammad Ali would become the lineal heavyweight champion 3 times, meaning he defeated an existing champion to become the new champion 3 times. He is the only man to ever do that. Ali officially retired in 1981 due to declining health. He held a record of 56 wins and 5 losses. After he retired, the world of boxing was seen to have a void that the sport struggled to recover from. By 1984, the boxing world was still splintered. Many of the sanctioning bodies had different champions, and few weight classes had a clear best boxer in the world. The most dominant figure in the sport would not be a boxer, but a promoter. That would be Don King, whose eccentric appearance and personality became a staple of boxing in the 1980s. Throughout the history of boxing, there were always controversies. Boxing has long been accused of being staged or fixed, being associated with criminal organizations, and being too brutal for public consumption. Individual boxers have been accused of cheating, purposefully losing, and being too violent in the ring, causing unnecessary permanent damage to their opponents. That all, of course, is just about the sport itself. The people involved in boxing have also been accused and convicted of serious crimes outside of the sport. That is a very brief history of boxing through 1984. With that now told, it's time to talk about the sport itself. Boxing is a combat sport. It is fought between 2 combatants in a one-on-one competition. It is fought in what is known as a ring, a raised square platform surrounded by ropes attached to posts in the corner through turnbuckles. This boxing ring is also referred to as a squared circle. Amateur boxing and professional boxing will have different rules. The most obvious difference would be the use of helmets seen in amateur boxing, most prevalently in the Summer Olympics. Professional boxing does not have helmets and is typically seen in their own events. A typical professional boxing match has 9 to 12 rounds that are 3 minutes each. During the rounds, boxers can punch their opponents while wearing padded gloves. The punches must land above their opponent's belt, which is raised to prevent blows to the groin area. Boxers are also prohibited from holding, tripping, pushing, biting, spitting, and other unsportsmanlike conduct. Inside the ring will be a referee. The referee is in charge of enforcing the rules of the match. If one of the boxers is knocked down, the match is paused and the referee will start counting. The referee will typically count to 8 to give the fallen boxer a chance to regain their composure. However, if the referee counts to 10 and the boxer is not ready to fight, the fight will end and is deemed a knockout or KO. The fight will also end if the referee feels that one boxer is unable to defend themselves. This is known as a technical knockout or TKO. In some areas, if a boxer is knocked down 3 times in a single round, then that is ruled as a TKO. Between rounds, boxers can go back to their respective corners, where their coaches can give them advice. There are also cut men, professionals that can treat minor injuries that are common in a fight, such as cuts, nosebleeds, and swelling. Boxing matches will also typically have doctors at ringside, near the ring, to judge whether a boxer's injuries during a match are too severe for them to continue. This is known as a doctor's stoppage. If the fight is not stopped by the referee or the doctor, and all rounds are fought, the fight is said to have gone the distance. In that case, judges, typically 3 judges, will score the fight, assigning points to each boxer for each round. Typically, 10 points are awarded to the winner of the round, and the loser of the round gets 9 or less points. These points are typically kept secret until the fight is over. During the match, the referee may issue warnings, take points away from a boxer, or disqualify a boxer for rule infractions. Each jurisdiction has its own specific rules for how boxing matches have to be fought. As a result, boxing does not have a rigid, universal set of rules. Almost all of the parts of a boxing match can be negotiated between the boxers and their representatives, provided they adhere to the local regulations. The location of the match can, of course, also be negotiated. When in the ring, boxers typically throw 4 main different types of punches. The first is a jab, which is a quick straight punch from the boxer's lead hand. The second is a cross, which is a more powerful straight punch from the boxer's rear hand. The third is a hook, a semicircular horizontal punch. The final typical punch is an uppercut, a vertical rising punch usually thrown with the rear hand. These punches are often thrown in combinations, or combos, with the most common combo, named the 1-2 combo, being a jab followed by a cross. Much of boxing is based around a boxer's defense. There is slipping, where a boxer rotates their body in order to have a punch miss. There is swaying or fading, where a boxer moves their head or upper body backwards so that the punch falls short or at least does not have as much power. There is bobbing and weaving, where a boxer moves down and to the side to avoid the punch. There is parrying or blocking, where a boxer uses their gloves or less susceptible body parts, such as their shoulders or arms, to absorb the damage of the punch. There is covering up, where the boxer puts both arms in front of themselves, trying to cover as much of their body as possible to prevent as much damage as possible. Finally, boxers may clinch each other during a match, when one boxer wraps his arms around the other in order to create a pause. This is technically against the rules, so the boxers are typically then asked to either punch out of the clinch or to break up and take a step back before boxing again. How a clinch is broken up is at the discretion of the referee. Boxers will typically use these offensive and defensive techniques in different styles. An outfighter, sometimes known as a classic boxer, typically seeks to stay further away from their opponent, using longer range but weaker punches to wear down their opponent. A counterpuncher is a very defensive fighter that seeks to exploit their opponent's mistakes or momentum to pick a spot for a well-timed punch. A brawler or slugger is a power puncher, typically sacrificing finesse and footwork in order to add more strength to their punches. An infighter or swarmer seeks to close the distance with the other boxer to throw intense combinations. A boxer puncher is a combination of several styles, typically seen as a well-rounded boxer. Of course, these are just some of the more basic styles, and individual boxers will often switch between and blend styles to fit the match that they are fighting. Finally, it would be remiss to talk about boxing without addressing the health concerns associated with the sport. Veteran boxers were known to have brain damage from receiving repeated concussions and knockouts over their careers since at least the 1920s. This leads to mood swings, behavioral issues, and thinking difficulty, arguably ruining these people's lives. This would be referred to as fist fighter's dementia, boxer's madness, or punch-drunk syndrome. As of recording this, these older terms are often associated with what is now called chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE. There is still a lot of study about this disease to see what causes it and how far-reaching its impact can be, but the correlation between CTE and boxing is well documented, even if the boxer was never knocked out or diagnosed with a concussion. That will do it for the story of boxing for now. My name is Baller Scuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video when we go for the knockout.